This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Gatorade Zero, the #1 proven electrolyte blend, made with zero sugar. Designed to hydrate better than water so you can lose more sweat and push more limits. Gatorade Zero, is it in you?
This episode is brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. Navy Federal can help you find and finance the right vehicle with ease. With Navy Federal's car buying service powered by TrueCar, you can find the vehicle that's right for you as you search through inventory and compare models. And you can get an amazing rate when you finance with Navy Federal. Visit NavyFederal.org/TrueCar to learn more. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA, credit and collateral subject to approval. Visit NavyFederal.org/TrueCar to learn more.
Support for today's show comes from Sonos. Watching games with a Sonos home theater setup makes everything feel more immersive. The Arc Ultra soundbar delivers incredible surround sound that puts you right in the middle of the action, bringing that stadium experience right into my home. And now I've been trying out the Sonos Ace headphones, and like all Sonos products, they perform as good as they look. Sleek design, crystal clear sound, and a super comfortable fit. Check out the full lineup at Sonos.com.
First of all, it's a beautiful sunny day here in the great state of Minnesota.
This is the New York tabloid's favorite friend, leader, fan radio network.
No, it's not good baseball.
And KFAN.com. 1 minute and 55 seconds past 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time. We welcome you to a Tuesday edition of the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, bumper-to-bumper program on a, again, reasonably pleasant mid-August weekday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. My name's Dan Barreiro, the occasional host. Guardsy produces the show, and we will be with you as per usual until 6:30 tonight. The Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line has been rebooted. 64686. I see the requisite rosy cheap shots. I thought those might have that they tend to dry up when Common's out, but apparently it's become such a habit that listeners are still conditioned to just poleaxe him. I mean, they just hammer him.
Tenna doesn't read as many of them.
That's the difference.
But they still come in, I would guess. Yeah. Like you said, it's habit.
Yeah, it's vicious. But that's the nature of the text line. We get that we all have to deal with that. It's, across, each of us has to bear in our own way.
The opposite of the text line is coming up a week from Thursday, the Minnesota State Fair. That's how I describe it to people.
Well, except as, we're being reminded again the last couple of weeks, there's some known Minnesota State Fair terrorists and agitators who go out of their way
a little
to dismiss it, to run from it, to remind us that we will not guilt them into anything. They know their names. In fact, one of them is a guest today, Kevin Seifert.
That's true.
Who, I guess I shouldn't rip him today because at the last minute, he was flexible enough to make a time change. Originally going to be with us as usual, 3:30 time. He will join from Vikings training camp. Are we practicing today? I don't even know because we got the joint practices tomorrow and Thursday, correct?
I think we are because some news has come out of there.
Okay.
That Rondale Moore did suffer a season-ending injury, so I don't know if that came at a briefing or if that just was a press release that just got sent out. Okay. I'm not exactly sure.
Well, in any case, Seifert will now join us at 4:30 because we're going to check in, first time in a while for us. We used to have Brian Oake on. Well, in the salad days, when he was on in the afternoon here, we had him on constantly. It was beautiful because he was on at the same time.
Yeah, he'd just walk over.
And he could just, with the magic of radio and tapes, he could actually pre-record segments Nobody was supposed to know that, but he could do that, and they could come in with us.
He'd throw in some Jason Mraz and just come hang out for 45 minutes.
I mean, there'd be maybe a triple shot of the Gin Blossoms, and then
Amos Lee.
That's a bit dated, but there was a time when Gin Blossoms were part of the Cities 97 Forte or music list. So he's going to join at 3:30. It's a weird. To get him interested, I did the old, we have to have you on today, which would indicate something urgent has taken place in the world of music or someone's died and that we wanted to talk about either of those issues. In this case, there's nothing urgent about it except that it's been in my mind for a while. And because we were kind of wide open and we got a lot of guests coming up, the rest of the week into next week, and then we're at the State Fair, why not? How about a little Oak show? And on the trip that we took to Ireland a few weeks ago, I guess now it'd be a month and a half ago, I rarely watch movies. For whatever reason, I know there's a million of them now. I just, on the flight, I tend to read, but then in this case, I was starting to fall asleep. I'll just look around. And I happened upon a documentary called Yacht Rock.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it came out in 2024. So it's been out a while. But it's a good overview of the whole concept, right? Of attempting to define yacht rock, whether it's fair to denigrate it as a form of music, whether the people who are identified as yacht rockers have a sense of humor about it or rebel, and it depends on the artist.
Some do, some don't.
I mean, Donald Fagen of Steely Dan lost his mind when they asked if he'd be interested in being a part of this thing, and basically did the bleep you and hung up. I think Daryl Hall also doesn't like very bothered by it.
Yeah,
I got to be honest with you and tell you I don't like it, even though I don't know how far you go to fight over it. But who better than Oak to get into the whole subject? And it's a good homework assignment for people now, if you want to send in text now, on the, not a new controversy, but that documentary, I think, kind of brought it to the forefront again, and I finally had seen it. It's late summer. It's a good time to talk about music anyway, kind of clear the decks. So Oak, last minute, very kind to join us. It'll be by phone. He will be with us at 3:30 this afternoon. And as I mentioned, Seifert will join at 4:30. So there is your guest lineup for today. The Twins, they did their part last night to help the struggling New York Yankees cause. This is just the first game of the series, but Twins did what they're supposed to do in New York. They lost it. And more importantly, they did what every self-respecting New York sports tabloid writer needed, gave them, I was about to say fresh material. It's actually old material, right, but again, topical material, right? It doesn't get any more topical than the back page headline, New York Daily News. No matter how bad things get, Yanks can always count on some success against Minnesota. That's the small headline. The big one, in big type, thank God for the Twins.
It's frustrating. Real frustrating.
If Dan Minnesota did a deep dive.
And he kind of has, by the way.
On this subject?
Yes.
Oh, when did he send that?
This afternoon.
Oh, then I missed it.
This has been ongoing here for the last hour or so.
Oh, good. Okay.
I'll pull him up.
Oh, then it's perfectly timely then. Of how many times that headline's been used or a variation of that headline's been used over, how far are we going? 20 years, right? Are we even going back further than 20? How far back do we go?
Well, in terms of us losing playoff series to them, yes.
Definitely back that far.
20, 21 years, I think 2004.
And then there were stretches where we couldn't beat them at all. Right. And then we did kind of beat them, right? More recently, we haven't been dominated completely by them, but they got exactly what they wanted last night. I'm guessing those headline writers, they probably feel like they're stealing on a night like last night.
It does feel like that.
It's not that hard to go, let's go back to the Twins. Well, we can mock them again, right?
Well, yeah, but then they have to go, well, which ones have we used already?
Oh, that's true.
Because I think even they have some professional pride to try to mix it up a little bit.
Not going to repeat themselves any more than necessary. Is that correct?
You want a couple others real quick?
Yeah, give me the, I missed this Dan Minnesota tweet, but go ahead.
Yeah, so this was about an hour ago.
Okay.
He grabbed the other two from the New York Daily News. We're on the hunt for one that I know I saw that must have been in the New York Post that I'll get to in a second. But the September 13th, 2021 punching bag. When all seems lost, a visit from favorite punching bag brings Yanks back to life. The big headline is Thanks Twins.
All right, let me write these down. So in terms of what the terms that are used to save, we'll go...
punching bag is what he calls that one.
Punching bag is a good one.
And then you'll like this one.
Okay.
From 2010. So it does go back about 15 years. I'm looking at Jorge Posada, I think.
Okay.
Bad news. Yanks must go on the road for the playoffs. Good news, they play Twins.
Ooh.
And the headline is Easy Pass.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah.
The Easy Pass. Yeah, I remember that one.
Easy Pass.
Yes.
So there's that one.
There's that. That's a really good one as well.
I feel like it must have been the New York Post in 2010 that the headline was first round bye.
Oh, that was
before the series was even played. You remember that, right? We talked about it.
Absolutely. That might be the best one.
First round bye is vicious because that's preemptive, kind of like Easy Passes.
You're right. First round, but those are all really, really good.
Yeah.
I wish we had a tabloid here. Instead, we got a varsity. And, God bless everybody involved in varsity. It looks like there's interest. It could be a hell of an idea. Randy Shaver is involved in the beefing up effort of high school coverage for the new Minnesota Star Tribune. But, man, I just love a cheap shot artist-filled tabloid newspaper.
So rather than the wholesome activities of high school athletics, you'd like the cheap shots.
Yeah, because we're happy for the kids. That's wonderful. And we're going to cover them, but I mean, we need an edge. And you really can't cheap shot the kids, right? You can't criticize them.
That depends on what school.
But here's the beauty of it. Is there obviously in 2025, you're not going to have a tabloid newspaper because you're not going to have any new newspapers because nobody wants to print anything. But could you have a financially successful Twin Cities online tabloid? Could that work? Close circuit to Tiny Joe Nelson. Has he thought about spicing up, maybe, controversying up, bring me the news? I'm just saying, I'm just wondering. I feel like if you don't have to worry about printing a paper, a lot less expensive. You don't really need that many reporters. You just need a bunch of snarky headline writers, and then you need a couple people to do some editing. That's it, don't you? Who cares about the stories? We don't need the stories. I just want the headline.
Yeah, I don't even think you need the editors in your plan here. You just need the headlines.
No, that's true.
You just need someone to come up with the pithy headlines.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not going to, I know it's a pipe dream. I know that ship has sailed. It's just not going to happen. I think there'd be more of an appetite for it in this town than people want to believe. I know we always think we're more high-minded.
No, but we're very sarcastic.
We're above it. But I think there's enough sarcastic people in Minnesota now, or at least the Twin Cities. Maybe not upstate. I don't know. You tell me. Is upstate as sarcastic as we are?
Yeah, I think so.
Outstate, I should say? Okay.
We're definitely sarcastic.
Oh, there's some sarcasm there, too?
I think so, at least towards me.
It's geared in one direction politically.
Yeah, towards me, they're very sarcastic.
Well, yeah, that's true.
So there's that.
You're the Bleeding Heart City boy.
The Cityite.
Oh, the Cityite. That's right. That's the term.
Yeah.
Well, there it is. That's a good tabloid headline right there.
Yeah.
Look at what this Cityite has been up to.
Right.
In downtown Minneapolis. Come on.
Or just Cityite visits Pine County Fair.
Yeah.
Which is a yearly occurrence where I basically just get teased for 18 hours. It's great.
You're used to it by this point,
yeah,
right?
It doesn't really affect me anymore, at least not that I'm...
Gatorade Zero, the #1 proven electrolyte blend, made with zero sugar. Designed to hydrate better than water so you can lose more sweat and push more limits. Gatorade Zero, is it in you?
Life moves fast. A new home, a new baby, a new chapter. But without an estate plan, your future's still vulnerable. With Trust and Will, you can name guardians, start a trust, create healthcare directives, and more. All online in about an hour. It's attorney-designed, state-specific, and built to protect what you love. Plans start at just $199, and every plan is safe, secure, and kept completely private. From families with young kids to adults caring for aging parents, Trust and Will makes it simple to take control, without a law office, paperwork stress, or court delays. Go to trustandwill.com and use code RADIO to save 20%. Start your plan today. Don't wait for life to force your hand. Estate planning is one of the smartest, most loving things you can do. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will. Shout out to Sonos for supporting today's show. At home, whether I'm watching Monday Night Football or I'm flipping between all the games on Sunday, sound quality matters. And this is where Sonos comes in. Their speakers bring your sports experience and entertainment to life. So whether it's in your own home there or you are out streaming music wherever you might be in your headphones, Sonos is the company for you. Sonos makes it easy to bring all your entertainment into every room in your home with their home theater speaker system. It's amazing. You want to feel like you're in the game, every crowd moment, every hit. Sonos speakers, that's the way to do it. Home theater cinematic sound, you want to bring those films to the next level. Guess what? That's how you do it. You got the Ace headphones too, amazing sound quality with crystal clear highs and powerful bass. You don't just hear the content in those headphones, you feel it. Trust me, I've got a pair, I know what I'm talking about. And you get up to 30 hours of battery, 3 hours of playback with a quick 3-minute charge. It doesn't get better than that. So, if you're serious about great sound for football, podcasts, or music, you've got to check out Sonos. Visit Sonos.com to learn more and explore the full Sonos lineup.
This episode is brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. Navy Federal can help you find and finance the right vehicle with ease. And this summer, you're in the driver's seat with savings. You can get a $250 bonus when you buy your next car through Navy Federal's car buying service, powered by TrueCar and financed with Navy Federal. With this tool, you can find the vehicle that's right for you as you search through inventory and compare models. And you could get an amazing rate when you finance with Navy Federal. Navy Federal strives to support all active duty, veterans, and their families to achieve their personal and financial goals. And this partnership with TrueCar is one of the many tools Navy Federal uses to help its members. Make your plan with Navy Federal and TrueCar today. Navy Federal Credit Union. To qualify for the $250 bonus, car purchase and financing must be completed by September 2nd, 2025. Terms and conditions apply and are available at NavyFederal.org/TrueCar. Credit and collateral subject to approval. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA.
And to admit, fan.
This is a plot, writes 612 guy, that was hatched on The Simpsons when Homer decided to start his own tabloid online. I assume in one form or another it already exists, right? I just might not be aware of what the site would be. But I still don't feel like there's a newspaper-ish tabloid online separate from, like I said, New York Post, I'm sure they have their own version. I know they do, but they also have the newspaper as well. I don't know how many they sell at this point. By the way, did you see the one media empire that continues to just flourish when it comes to increasing online circulation? New York Times.
Really?
New York Times is absolute. I know it's going to upset a few people in our audience. It is absolutely flourishing in terms of adding subscriptions. It's through the roof.
And they get, our double subscription because of The Athletic.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Because
very true.
Our guys like Johnny Kay and Russo and Gleeman, they've all appeared in print in the New York Times because of that relationship.
How about having an entire tabloid of sports and news with Negative Dave as the editor?
There's a lot of candidates for editor.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll raise my hand. I have no problem with that at all. Among our listeners yesterday, we had a a very good guest on between, 4 and about 4:35.
Yep.
And he is Dan Wetzel, who is an investigative writer for ESPN. And we talked about a new piece from him that I think landed or appeared online Sunday, having to do with a growing number of sextortion cases, in this case, centering on generally high school-aged male football players. Maybe basketball as well, but players who have a little bit of a profile online, and it follows the course that one might expect in a sextortion case where somebody pretending to be like a college woman starts flirting with this, with like a 16-year-old high school kid, and then sends an inappropriate photo, convinces the person they're dealing with, the player, the real person, to send one back. And once they do, they got them. And then it's, you got to start sending us money, etc. It's a remarkable story. ESPN.com still has it. You could podcast between 4 and 4:30. We're still getting some reaction to it. But among the people who was listening at various points yesterday was Andy Luger, former U.S. attorney. And as it turns out, Luger and when he was in office at the U.S. attorney, Minnesota U.S. attorney, has great knowledge and experience about certain connected stories to this. Said he believes it's still not quite understood how horrific this is. And he has agreed to he's going to come in studio next Tuesday. I think it's going to be in the 5 o'clock hour, it looks like.
Awesome.
To talk about his own experiences with this. Because he, as an example, just to show that this is the story we talked about yesterday was pretty specific in terms of the subset of individuals being affected. But there are many, many, many others. And he linked to a story. Here's the headline on it. This is from September of 2022. St. Paul man sentenced to 43 years in prison for targeting more than 1,100 minor victims in sextortion scheme. And in this case, he was convicted of victimizing more than 1,100 minor girls across the country and abroad in an extensive online sextortion scheme. Here's the quote from Andy. For several years, Yu Vang victimized more than 1,000 young girls in Minnesota and beyond through a vicious sextortion scheme. Using popular social media apps to prey on his victims, Vang's manipulation began with compliments and expressions of flattery, which quickly turned into threats and extortion. There are few crimes as damaging and traumatic to a young person as sextortion. Vang is a predator who targeted innocent and impressionable young girls, exploiting their innocence for pictures and videos, robbing them of their childhood and forever altering their lives and the lives of their families. Now, that's actually a quote from Michael Paul, who is the FBI special agent in charge, Minneapolis division, at least at that point. So you can already see this is a wider net. In this case, it's mainly young girls. The process apparently is very similar, but I think we should stay with this subject as much as we can and expand upon it, especially with people who have such built-in excellent knowledge and background as, Andy Luger might. Because he texted me. I think it's critically important to talk frankly about this. I watched this more from mostly girls as targets to boy athletes. And many of the perpetrators were local. The discussion yesterday was largely Nigerian, correct? And he acknowledges the Nigerian fraud rings are outrageous, but so are the local criminals. So we'll get back into the subject and maybe widen the scope of it. And again, this was 3 years ago, so it's a reminder that in various ways, to varying degrees, this has been going on. What seems to be morphing or changing is who the victims are. And Andy can speak to what can be done legally, maybe some other ideas of how to better prepare kids as much as possible for these sorts of horror stories, etc. So he will give us a lot more detail on that next Tuesday, because our final camp day will be next Monday, correct?
Yes, the 18th.
The 18th. And then Tuesday we'll be in studio. Wednesday we'll be in studio. And then, of course, we hit the fair that Thursday, a week from this coming Thursday. In addition, A-section stuff. What day did I say?
Michael Hurley?
Hurley's going to be Thursday, I think.
Thursday, 3:30.
Michael Hurley, 3:30. We want to catch up on a lot of stuff, not the least of which is the Israeli plan to go into Gaza again and basically take it over. How's that working? Trump's meeting with I think it's scheduled for Friday, unless it's been moved up, in Alaska with Putin. Isn't that Friday? I believe it is. In terms of figuring out the Ukraine situation. So those would be the two big topics with Hurley, the Middle East, and Ukraine, Trump, Putin, etc.
Then tomorrow.
You want to know why it's loud still? Why? It's the barn.
Nothing but open time for your Links Club, right?
Exactly right.
They're off until, did you tell me it was Sunday?
Saturday.
Saturday they're back.
1 o'clock, I think.
And is that another, again, that's the second of the 3-game series with the Liberty, correct?
Exactly.
Liberty might be afraid to play us at this point.
They might not make the trip.
They might not even make the trip because that's here. Right?
It is. House of Pain.
So Lindsay Whalen will join. We'll get caught up regarding, well, a lot of stuff, not the least of which is the big trade that the team made. Maybe she'll give us some inside information on why Meesman didn't land here. I doubt that she will, but we can try. Who knows? She might have some inside track on that as well. So lots of good stuff coming up. And then Friday, of course, we'll have Laval and we'll have Ben Gessling. And as you mentioned, the not surprising news, but now official news is that Rondell Moore,
there you go,
got it right this time, is out for the rest of the season. Significant, what are we calling, ACL?
They're just saying leg injury.
Leg injury. Yeah. Oh, I thought they got a little bit more specific than that. In any case, because some folks got confused because somewhere online he had offered up a hashtag blessed, and some people took that as maybe an indication that the test they took indicated that the injury was not as severe.
No,
and that obviously was not the case.
Season-ending knee injury.
Okay, that's fair enough. Season-ending knee injury. And it's the other knee from the one that sidelined him all of last season. He may be in the camp, in that situation now where he goes, just not for me. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe not. Maybe he's determined. But then there's also the issue of what all these injuries do. Players with wiggle come back from knee injuries a lot better than they used to. But if you get two years in a row without really establishing anything, then you got to start to wonder. Bottom of the hour, yes. Bring all of your Yacht Rock questions to the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line. Cities 97 Big Knocker, Brian Oake. I'm never going to stop calling him that. He is going to join us next.
Gatorade Zero, the #1 proven electrolyte blend, made with zero sugar. Designed to hydrate better than water so you can lose more sweat and push more limits. Gatorade Zero, is it in you?
Life moves fast. A new home, a new baby, a new chapter. But without an estate plan, your future's still vulnerable. With Trust and Will, you can name guardians, start a trust, create healthcare directives, and more. All online in about an hour. It's attorney-designed, state-specific, and built to protect what you love. Plans start at just $199, and every plan is safe, secure, and kept completely private. From families with young kids to adults caring for aging parents, Trust and Will makes it simple to take control, without a law office, paperwork stress, or court delays. Go to trustandwill.com and use code RADIO to save 20%. Start your plan today. Don't wait for life to force your hand. Estate planning is one of the smartest, most loving things you can do. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will. Shout out to Sonos for supporting today's show. At home, whether I'm watching Monday Night Football or I'm flipping between all the games on Sunday, sound quality matters. And this is where Sonos comes in. Their speakers bring your sports experience and entertainment to life. So whether it's in your own home there or you are out streaming music wherever you might be in your headphones, Sonos is the company for you. Sonos makes it easy to bring all your entertainment into every room in your home with their home theater speaker system. It's amazing. You want to feel like you're in the game, every crowd moment, every hit. Sonos speakers, that's the way to do it. Home theater cinematic sound, you want to bring those films to the next level. Guess what? That's how you do it. You got the Ace headphones too, amazing sound quality with crystal clear highs and powerful bass. You don't just hear the content in those headphones, you feel it. Trust me, I've got a pair. I know what I'm talking about. And you get up to 30 hours of battery, 3 hours of playback with a quick 3-minute charge. It doesn't get better than that. So if you're serious about great sound for football, podcasts, or music, you've got to check out Sonos. Visit Sonos.com to learn more and explore the full Sonos lineup.
This episode is brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. Navy Federal can help you find and finance the right vehicle with ease. And this summer, you're in the driver's seat with savings. You can get a $250 bonus when you buy your next car through Navy Federal's car buying service, powered by TrueCar and financed with Navy Federal. With this tool, you can find the vehicle that's right for you as you search through inventory and compare models. And you could get an amazing rate when you finance with Navy Federal. Navy Federal strives to support all active duty, veterans, and their families to achieve their personal and financial goals. And this partnership with TrueCar is one of the many tools Navy Federal uses to help its members. Make your plan with Navy Federal and TrueCar today. Navy Federal Credit Union. To qualify for the $250 bonus, car purchase and financing must be completed by September 2nd, 2025. Terms and conditions apply and are available at NavyFederal.org/TrueCar. Credit and collateral subject to approval. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA.
Stay on. Outstanding, marvelous opportunity to get your questions answered by Brian Oake. He is joining us by phone via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. And don't forget, as I said, we'll have Kevin Seifert to talk Vikings training camp in about 1 hour. Oake, can you hear us?
Barreiro.
How are you?
I can hear you just fine.
Well, thank you for the, this is like very, I kind of feel guilty about pretending there was something urgent. It's my trick of got to have you on today. Like either somebody died or there's some big new musical controversy, and it was just to get your attention. And then I had
it worked. I got back to you right away.
You did immediately. It was well, you usually do though. You're actually pretty good about that. It's always good to hear your voice. Here's your toss-up question from the text line. Ask Oake if he has ever had anyone bring up his resemblance to Mark Shepard from Supernatural. Has that come up before?
I've never seen Supernatural, so I don't know if I know who Mark Shepard is. No.
Yeah.
When I weighed about 60 pounds more than I weigh right now, I would get routine, and didn't have the beard yet, I would get the daily comparisons to a young Jack Black.
Oh, yes.
I've been told I look like I could be Meat Sauce's brother. And there is a local drummer by the name of J.D. Bates, one of those kind of journeyman guys who plays with about 40 different bands, who I am literally the spitting image of. And the one time we met, it was actually sort of haunting for both of us. So it was a very awkward and brief conversation.
So as you know, in the lobby area of iHeart here on floor 5, a lobby that's rarely open anymore, there are a bunch of photos of various talents working at various stations, from talk to music, whatever the case may be. And I usually, I don't usually go to the studio through that direction, but sometimes I do. And I stopped yesterday when I did this because I'm sure I've seen this photo before, and it's towards the bottom of like each. It's like these are photo towers where there's 2 or 3 people, somebody at the top, somebody in the middle, somebody at the bottom. And one of them, on one of the towers, I look to my left, and I think it's you. It looks like you, but you have no beard, and you look like you're about 21 years old. Is that you? Do you know the one I'm talking about? Is that you? Or is
I
that
think so.
else?
Am I kind of at an angle with my arms crossed and kind of the short, spiky Joyce DeWitt hair with no beard?
Yes.
Yeah, that's me.
So how long ago was that photo taken?
Oh, man, I mean, that's probably somewhere in the early to mid-aughts. You know, it was after we moved into that building, so I'm thinking 2006, 2007, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. You looked good. You look good, but you also look very young.
Thanks.
Yeah, you look very young.
Yeah, well, I was, it was 20 years ago. I was significantly young. I was probably still in my 30s when that picture was taken.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's probably it. Anyway, it's still up, and it has not been defaced, so all that's very good. That's the most important, because you never know here, as you know. You never know how it's going to go.
Yeah, dude, I quit once, then I was hired back, so I just, in our line of work, even when you are a stalwart, there are no guarantees. None. And, keep your options open. Don't burn any bridges. And I think that's probably true with just about everything in life.
There's no question about that. All right, so I mentioned to you on the phone, same thing I said to the audience earlier, this documentary called Yacht Rock got a lot of attention, came out sometime during 2024. And I don't think Gargi and I have ever talked about it with any length on the show. And I finally saw it on a plane trip overseas, and I'm kind of glad I did, because part of me, as a staunch defender of many of the musicians who are defined as yacht rockers, there's a part of me that didn't want to watch because I thought I'd get mad. And I said, well, that's I'm on a plane. I don't know. Is that going to be very enjoyable? But I thought it was done with a good sense of humor, raised a lot of interesting issues and questions. But you and I have certainly never talked about the whole concept. I'm sure you've talked about it a million times. And I mean, my toss-up to you is, do yacht rockers, some of whom did not take kindly to the description, to the point where they didn't want to be interviewed in the piece, do they have a right to some measure of defensiveness that too many people almost seem to use the term as a pejorative? It's like, it's poppy music. It doesn't have any urgency. It doesn't have any real meaning. Or do you think those folks would be too defensive if they bristle at the term yacht rock?
Well, I'm going to give the short answer is a little of column A and a little of column B on that. But what I'd like to do is set the table a little bit for people who maybe don't know what we're talking about or where the term even came from. Because back, the music we're going to be talking about here, back in the mid-'70s to early '80s, where that's really sort of ground zero for what's considered yacht rock these days, that term didn't exist. Nobody called it yacht rock back then, despite the fact that Loggins and Messina were on a different ship every single album cover. But it's one of the reasons they're one of the sort of, they're in the crown jewels of this hierarchy. But back in about 2005, I think, there was this online web series. And remember, 2005, 20 years ago, the internet's still pretty novel. I mean, obviously it's developed and people are utilizing it more, creating content, but full-blown web series and things like that were not commonplace. Well, a couple of comedians got together and did this ongoing web series that ran on for a few years, where they were both informative and highly comedic, and that really was where the term yacht rock was dubbed, or at least it coalesced at that moment. It'd probably been mentioned a few times before, but this is really sort of the flashpoint of where the whole term and notion of yacht rock comes from. And the series is brilliant, by the way. It's corny and it's goofy and it's low budget, but it's very, very funny if you're at all a music fan, and you can take it with a grain of salt and not get upended. It's a brilliant series, and start from the beginning, because their portrayal of figures like Kenny Loggins and Michael McDonald and the Hall & Oates, it's spot on. So it started there, and then the term's grown in popularity over the years till now, whereas we'd never once heard it before 2000, now you hear it constantly. And so, yes, it is the overall sort of overreaching, kind of vague umbrella for any sort of very smooth, polished, mellow music from about 74, 75 up until the early 80s. Yeah. And so to get back to your original question, I don't think anyone ever, I guess there probably are people that use it as a pejorative. Most of the people I know or ever have music discussions with, we simply use it as a placeholder, right?
Gotcha.
I mean, obviously it's never that simple, and no genre or no descriptor has these harsh demarcations like, well, if it's yacht rock, it can't be anything else. That Venn diagram has all kinds of crossover, and there's hundreds of circles in it. And but those who fall under yacht rock, I don't think of it as a pejorative when I say it, because I love a ton of the music, virtually all of the music that falls under that heading. And so if you use it, I guess you can use it as a pejorative to say it's like muzak or crappy throwaway boomer music or whatever. And so I can see why some artists take offense at being branded that. But we live in an age where people don't want to think too hard, and people need simple labels and things to hang on to. And so I'm not surprised that this popped up and that it stuck, because that music is strong. It's good. These are talented musicians, and that's the reason it's had staying power, and that we still talk about yacht rock to this day. And as you know, and probably having watched that documentary, some artists absolutely bristle, and sometimes more, lash out at ever being called or referred to as yacht rock, while others have a much better sense of humor about it, and they're like, I don't care what you call it. You bought the records. You enjoy my music. You can call it whatever. You can call it garbage heap if you want to. I don't care. So, it depends on the listener and the artist involved.
So the series you were talking about, the comedy series, was it written by somebody named J.D. Reisner? Is that what the one you're talking about?
That is correct.
Yeah, because somebody
and
brought
Hunter
it up.
D. Stair, and then it was hosted by this guy Steve Huey, who looks like your prototypical record store music dork, but then they do it in this very old school, hi, I'm Steve Huey, and today, and then they take it to another phase of whatever they're going to cover. And again, low budget, but very well researched, and I think extremely funny.
Yeah, he texted actually like 15, 20 minutes ago, and what cracked me up, he said the highlight of the show is them depicting John Oates of Hall & Oates as a misanthropic sociopath, which I didn't see. I don't know if you remember that, but that does sound like it could be pretty entertaining.
Well, John Oates, since you bring him up, just a very quick aside, especially given how he was portrayed in that, he's one of the good sports about the term yacht rock, and in fact even celebrates it, because he says that it's almost single-handedly responsible for a resurgence in the popularity of Hall & Oates, increased record sales, increased ticket sales for shows, that kind of thing.
Yeah, even better. Now, I do believe that you are not a fan of an artist who did take offense to the concept and basically did the bleep you and hung up on the documentarians when they said, hey, we'd like to, Mr. Donald Fagen, we'd like to interview you on this issue. You are not, did I not hear you basically destroy Steely Dan, which previously I did not know that you were that down on either Fagen or the concept or the group?
What I love about you, Dan, is you find a way of bringing so much nuance and gentle consideration to these things. You really, and the listening ear, you never are one to ruffle feathers or fan the flames. Never once have I ever said I hated Steely Dan or they weren't any good. I simply said, I'm not a fan. And that doesn't mean that they're not talented, that they're not amazing. I have yet to hear a Steely Dan song that makes me feel that thing inside. And the thing, I guess, that's so offensive to people, because Steely Dan fans are really Steely Dan fans. And you're not allowed, as you bring up constantly on a wide array of topics, you're not allowed to have a modest or middling opinion of what it's like.
Yeah, well, I might have used the term hate to draw you out. I was aware that you probably did not go that far. I
did not.
Fagen was, as you said, he was one of them that basically said, don't even. And I guess Guardsy tells me, I think, or somebody, Daryl Hall, or maybe it was you, pretty much responded the same way. Now, I admit I dozed through parts of the movie because this was an overnight flight. So maybe I forget. I missed this part, but was Hall in it at all? I mean, in terms of their efforts to try to interview him, because they did talk about. In fact, I think they played the audio of when they called Fagen, and he basically said, well, what are you going to call the music? And they said, well, it's the name of the documentary is Yacht Rock. And then he said, bleep you. And the next thing you heard was a click. Unless that was a bit. I don't know.
No, I've never seen that documentary in particular. It's on the list, but I haven't seen it yet. Just because I feel like I pay enough attention, read music news and stories every day. I will watch it at some point because I'd like to kind of see it all put together in one place. So I haven't seen that documentary, but that Donald Fagen, probably him and Daryl Hall probably neck and neck there for the most famous, haters of that particular label. I've heard that story about Donald Fagen. I don't know if it's apocryphal or to what degree it's true. But I think it's certainly on brand. He's not somebody who's ever had a rich sense of humor and I know that's going to make some Steely Dan fans angry too, but he's one of those guys, very particular, very difficult, whether or not there's humor that comes through in his music. So I'm not surprised to hear that about him. But for some reason, it really ticks me off with Daryl Hall because Daryl Hall is arguably one of the most successful American artists of the 1970s and 80s. Dude, you've made tens, if not more, of millions over the course of your career, sold untold records. People came out to the show in the tens of thousands. And his response was just, he feels it's demeaning, diminutive. And I think that a lot of these artists who are so proud, and rightfully so, because of their level of success and because of their musical acumen, they don't want to be lumped into, they think that if people speak of them in the same breath that they mention band like Orleans or Player, that somehow demeans the quality and the achievements of their career. And you know what? If people still care, I think that's all you should still care about. The fact that you guys call me still on KFAN to talk about music, yay! I don't feel diminutive none of it. And so I feel the same way. Hall responded really strongly, but most of the people that have actually said anything about it at all, and the majority of them have not, most of them just kind of, they just roll with it, and they're like, hey, I'm just glad someone's still talking about us.
I like the way 507 guy characterizes this discussion. He writes, regarding the yacht rock conversation, I think the term is misunderstood. Music fans of the era might more prefer to refer to it as comfy rock. It's awesome music we love to listen to, makes us comfortable. The term yacht makes it seem a little snooty. I'm not laying on a yacht. I'm chilling on the patio with my pooch, listening to my faves from the past. I think he's onto something a little bit there. I mean, to me, I have no problem. It's pop music. It's obviously pop music. It's not. I don't think it's not weighty music most of the time. But the yacht part, I think, seems to almost bring class into it, like only rich people could possibly like listening to. Daryl Hall, John Oates, you name it, Michael McDonald, Toto, the list goes on and on. That's the part that I think maybe gets some folks going.
Yeah, I think so, but I think that that's a case of being way too literal with the term. I genuinely believe that because Kenny Loggins in this web series, again, remember where this term really came to life in American culture, Kenny Loggins is a central character. And you go back from about 1974 on and look at any Loggins and Messina or Kenny Loggins record during that time, open Hawaiian shirt, hairy 70s chest, hanging onto the rigging of some medium-sized seagoing vessel. And it was such a prevalent sort of, a meme before there was the internet, an album cover meme, that I think that's probably where they got that from, or Christopher Cross, who's one of the pinnacles of yacht rock, his song Sailing, and so there was a lot of stuff in there that I think that was sort of a convenient and, it does paint a picture, but I don't think it has to do with class or wealth. I think it's more just the vibe, even if you haven't got your own yacht. And I don't think they're talking about super yachts, that have their own launches and helicopter pads. They're just talking about that water lifestyle and the mellowness that's sort of associated with it. So I don't think the class thing is in there. I can see where people would interpret it that way, but I don't see it that way at all.
See, again, this is where I guess we all get too hung up on categories and maybe they don't even matter. But I actually, if you ask me to put Hall & Oates, especially Hall, in a category, I'd say Blue-Eyed Soul. I think even the musicians, the soul musicians that he has played with over the years, accept him that way. I think he's more that than even Steely Dan. To me, is in many ways, a completely different category. So I don't even know, to me. Now, Hall & Oates had some very poppy music. There's no question about that. But his voice at its best, to me, that's more, and I don't know who else I'd put in the Blue-Eyed Soul category. There ain't many, but he'd be one of them. And in fact, that's what he used to be known as for a while.
Yeah, agreed. But again, I think this gets back to that point about how there's not this sharp demarcation that either you are yacht rock or are not yacht rock. I mean, you want to look at a couple of guys who are absolutely soul artists that are considered primary foundational figures in what is now considered yacht rock. George Benson, Grover Washington Jr., both very well revered. And if you go out to a yacht rock event at a bar or a yacht rock feature, you're going to hear their music. And so there are a lot of people that did that kind of smooth, well-produced soul that, melds beautifully next to England Dan and John Ford Coley and even Olivia Newton-John. Jackson Brown is in there. You could even argue that some of the Eagles catalog belongs in there. And so, of course, these are all pop artists, rock artists, soul artists, whatever, but all of them have songs that contribute to what I would call the rich tapestry, that deep catalog of yacht rock.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's very well said. By the way, if you don't know this voice by now, you should. It's Brian Oake, kind enough to join us. He's on with Common pretty much every week doing Rock Talk. Common is, I believe, on vacation this week. You mentioned, or maybe I mentioned, Toto. One of the things that fascinated me about the documentary is that basically what a number of the folks who were interviewed in there said that the Toto connection is in every song, even if it's not their song, because a lot of the band members, because it was a studio, they were all a bunch of studio musicians for so long.
Correct.
Before they took off, that you can pretty much connect Toto to any yacht rock song in one way or another.
It is. I mean, it's very much a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right?
Yes.
I mean, so many of the bands and the individual artists, either they produced something or they collaborated with this artist or they were in this other band or they had their own solo career or whatever. Toto, Poco, even Pablo Cruz, all those bands are absolutely foundational to the sound.
A couple more texts I want to get to. This will get you going. Let me see if I can find it.
Hit me.
Scroll down. Where did it go? Yacht Rock. We're going to get to the, if we have time, I want to get to the new Billy Joel documentary, although I don't know if you have seen it.
I have not.
Where is it? Tell Oak you don't have to like Steely Dan, but you got to respect them. Sort of like what I say about
God. Well, and you know what? I know he's making fun of me. Yeah. I know he's making fun of me, but I will tell you that I couldn't agree with him more. I do not particularly care for Steely Dan, but you can't say that every one of them weren't expert. You can't say that these are not incredibly crafted songs, meticulously produced to make genuinely landmark albums. I don't disagree with any of that, but if I put a record on and I just don't feel it, that record's not going back on the turntable. So that's where I stand with them. But ha-ha. By the way, also ha-ha.
One of the criticisms among critics from back in the day, music critics on Steely Dan was, as they developed more and more into a studio band, right, and less as a touring musicians, it was basically the big two, and then they bring in whoever they want, and they do 97 takes on one saxophone solo until they figured that's going to be the one that's going to fit Asia. That it's too perfect, that it's too good in that sense. It's too edited. And that, to a certain extent, then some of the life of even earlier Steely Dan stuff, when they were a little bit more of a band, got sort of sucked out of it. I don't know if I ever agreed with that, because I thought their slick stuff was very well done. But wasn't that some of the criticism of the time, was more like, it's too perfect, man. I need some edges on my music.
There's no question. I mean, again, just meticulously poured over to the point where I think a lot of those later records, the reason they didn't tour is you can't reproduce it live. It's so meticulous and so distinct and so complex and so many different parts. And if each one's not perfect, it's not going to sound like the song. And so you create something, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but you create something that you can't reproduce live. And and to me, Steely Dan falls into this category of a number of other bands as well. Really, they are musicians. The people I know who are the deepest diehard Steely Dan fans have some sort of knowledge of musical theory, are in a band, or are very, very well acquainted with the history of music or music in general, songcraft, that sort of thing. And they're the ones who sit there and they're sort of in awe. It's like, for a mathematician reading a truly brilliant equation or whatever other analogy you want to come up with. And for me as a layperson who kind of goes by gut more than actual structure, it's kind of lost on me. And it does. There's not, and it doesn't have to be punk rock, right? It doesn't have to be the deepest, craziest Parliament funk groove you've ever heard, but I need a little more juice in my music than I get from Steely Dan.
Is ELO Yacht Rock? Electric Light Orchestra.
And again, now, none of these bands, none of these artists, not any one of them, I don't believe, that their entire catalog belongs under that umbrella. But when we talk about smooth, meticulously produced, beautiful harmonies, great singing, incredible playing, ELO is absolutely central to it.
Interesting. Okay.
Don't you think so?
No, I do agree. But I like the music. I always have, and you've described it, I think, very aptly as well. This is not, I don't think he's classified as yacht rock. I think he would take offense. But Billy Joel is in the news because of a new 2-part, I think it's HBO documentary. I don't remember where I saw it, but I know it's out. I don't know if you've seen it. And here's what I want to ask you about. Like you with Steely Dan, I would say Billy Joel just generally hasn't done it for me. There have been a couple songs that I liked early, especially, but it's just not my wheelhouse. And yet, I did find myself kind of interested in the documentary because it sort of underscored how popular he was. Didn't he sell out? He had a deal at Madison Square Garden where he sold out 1 million shows in a row, something like that. So where are you?
It was ridiculous, and it went on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it was sold out every single night. That man is literally an American music legend.
Okay, so he's not obviously yacht rock. I don't think anybody would agree. Was he in your wheelhouse? Were you a Billy Joel guy?
I am still a Billy Joel guy. I would put a Billy Joel record on. This is going to make some people angry, but I'd put a Billy Joel record on, or at least the right Billy Joel record on, over the right Steely Dan record 10 times out of 10. One of the reasons is I was a huge fan. His album Glass Houses was the first album I ever bought with my own money when I was a kid, because he was so freakishly popular. I think there were 5 singles off that record. He was one of the biggest stories of the first half of the 80s in America and really around the world. And it wasn't until much later in life that I went back and listened to his early stuff when you could really consider him much more of a troubadour and a songsmith. And not that he abandoned that. And then by the time we got to the later 80s, with We Didn't Start the Fire and that kind of stuff, I sort of lost interest. But yeah, I like Billy Joel, and again, not to the point where selling out Madison Square Garden for 12 shows in a row or however many it was. But I think he's good. And I bet that if you went back into his catalog and you took some of the quieter or mellower things, not sort of that sharp new wave production on Glass Houses, but go back into the late 70s, I'll bet you could find plenty of Billy Joel songs that would not cause a ripple in your Yacht Rock playlist. Like nobody would turn their head and say, what's that doing on here? Yacht Rock's really more of a vibe than a specific set of instruments or song subject or whatever. It's just, Yacht Rock when you hear it.
You mentioned you'd not seen the Yacht Rock documentary that came out a year ago yet. It will probably not surprise you to learn that the single most, I thought, self-deprecating artist throughout the documentary was Michael McDonald. A guy who I know you've interviewed a bunch. I've interviewed a couple times when he's been around here, probably picking up, your morsels after that you're done talking to him. I almost sometimes want to say to Michael when I see these interviews, you're actually going too far. You're shortchanging yourself too much, man. I don't know. He seems to be like one of those really nice guys who does, and it's good that he, we got a lot of artists who take themselves too seriously. But man, oh man, he's basically, there are times with him he goes, I have no idea why people like my music. I have no idea why I've been able to sustain as long as I have, but I guess I'll continue. I just shrugs his shoulders and I'll say I continue to do it. It's like, Mike, give yourself a little bit more credit than that.
Yeah, see, I don't think he's being necessarily disingenuous when he says that.
No.
I promise you that Michael McDonald knows exactly how talented he is behind the piano, especially when he's singing, how in demand he was, how popular he is, how long his legacy has lasted, and how wide it reaches. But I find it, having interviewed hundreds, if not thousands of artists in my career, I would say that I would rather, maybe he does go too far. I haven't seen it yet and I will watch it, but I would rather have someone err to that end than the other end. And I've seen them both. And you know what? If he wants to be, he can afford to be self-deprecating. That was my thing with rock stars of any stripe. You've already gotten the love, the respect, the money, the everything. How dare you? How dare you be a jackass? And so I would much rather someone defer, or like I said, sort of err to the other side than the jerkwater side.
There is a text that came in. I can't find it. I'll paraphrase it though, and it was basically, I'm disappointed to hear that Oak does not like Steely Dan. This individual saying, I really like the Steely Dan's music. And he's very curious to know why you're so down on them. I'm not making it up. That's what he said.
I understand, and I think we've already covered this, but just a short reworking of it. I do not dislike Steely Dan. I am 100% ambivalent about Steely Dan. It does not make me happy. It does not make me sad or angry. I just don't personally care. But people have to remember, music taste, there are certain artists who are clearly more talented, in an academic sense than others, but it all comes down to emotion. It is one of the most subjective things on the planet. So I cannot be a huge fan of Steely Dan. That guy can be a mega fan, and we're both right. We don't have an argument here, because if he loves Steely Dan that much, I promise you there are dozens, if not hundreds of other artists or bands that I like that much.
Yeah.
So in being music fans, we have a lot more in common than we don't. In no way do I ever want to denigrate Steely Dan. I got nothing against them, and I think they're wildly talented. I've just never felt it.
It's good to hear your voice. Enjoyed the conversation, and we'll try to stay in touch. You're back with Common next week, I assume?
I am, and also, can I plug my podcast real quick?
Of course, yes.
Oh, beautiful. Well, it's called The Brian Oake Show, and a clever title, as you can see. It's pretty hyper-local. We talk to zillions of musicians. About 90% of it's music-oriented, but we talk to entrepreneurs, political figures, had some religious figures on, but it's all really about this area that we live in and building and expanding and supporting that community. You can get it just about anywhere, but obviously, most importantly, and probably the place you should be getting, is where everyone gets their podcasts, or more people than anywhere else, and that would be the free iHeart Radio app, which is available wherever you'd like to go. And we just crossed episode 506, so you got a lot to go back and listen to if you miss me jabbering about music.
Can you clear up one other thing also as we wrap up? Is Brian Oake your real name, or is that your radio name?
100% my real name. You ask anybody I went to school with, high school with up in Coon Rapids. Shout out to the North Suburban Cultural Corridor. No, I come from a long line of Oaks, and and I was in radio for about 3 years before I realized that not one person around me was using their actual name. Brian Thomas was Daryl Renstrom. I knew him for 3 years before I found that out. So no, it never occurred to me to pick a different name. And when I was young, I hated the name, but it turned out to be a pretty ideal radio name. Yes. So no, that's 100% my legal name. Please don't look me up online.
Good radio name, great radio voice. We appreciate you, man. Thanks. Good luck, and we'll be in touch. Okay.
Sounds great, Dan. Thanks,
you, man. Brian Oake, great stuff. We ran a little late. We'll get caught up. Don't forget, a lot of training camp talk with Kevin Seifert, including some breaking Vikings news. He will join at 4:30.
Gatorade Zero, the #1 proven electrolyte blend, made with zero sugar. Designed to hydrate better than water so you can lose more sweat and push more limits. Gatorade Zero, is it in you?